Hi guys, so in this video I will be explaining you my EPAM round 2 interview experience, Java developer interview experience. So if you have gone through my previous videos, you have got to know about my first round of interview experience. I've already given before as well in 2023 I think. So there also interview experience I have attached, and round 1 also I've given latest in 2025. This is round 2 at EPAM. So without any delay, let's get started with a set of questions, latest 2025 set of questions that is asked to me. Yeah, so first question is always about project. So they may try to dig deep into it, like what kind of projects you have worked upon. Like they might need to know about the design architecture. What is the system design implementation you have implemented in your project? What is the architecture of the project which you have implemented? Have you implemented any multi-threading in your project or not? So these all things, and if you have worked upon microservices, then they may ask you about like what all design patterns you have implemented in microservices. How have you considered trade-offs? Okay, and how have you optimized and made your project scalable, okay, for millions of users? Those all type of questions they may ask you, so you should be aware of this. Okay, so anyway, this about project is very common across all the interviewers, so I hope you are aware of this and be prepared with these set of cross questions as well. Next question is, actually this position was for lead developer position, so that's why question was asked to me about lead position, like have you worked as a lead in a project or not. So if you have worked as a lead, like it's for 5+ or 6+ years experience, where mostly people may go as a lead developer in a project. So if you have worked as a lead in a project, you can simply tell like, yes, I have worked as a lead and I have led a team of 6 to 7 people depending upon the project, and we have segregated the work according to the experiences of the developers after taking the requirements from the clients, after having discussion with the stakeholders. Okay, so this kind of explanation you have to tell at first level, and once the cross question on it, then you may need to answer accordingly. So tell if you have actually worked as a lead, or if you have 6+ years, then you can mimic like, yes, you have worked. But if you're having less than 5 or around less than 4, equal to 4, then there is very less chance that you have worked as a lead. So don't tell that I have worked as a lead. Okay, so it will not work out. Okay, I hope you got the clarity on the same. Yeah, then they have directed me to their coding platform. So the EPAM is having their own coding platform where they will be a set of question given, and then one by one they will give question, and then they will tell you to write the code for the same. Okay, so the problem statement was longest common subsequence. Okay, so it's basically recursion plus TP based problem. So I was actually surprised to see like how TP based problem can be asked in a service based company, but yes, it was asked. Okay, and EPAM is very good service based companies, and they are giving very good packages as well. Like it gives around 35 to 40 LPA for 7+ years experience. So that's why this type of questions they will ask you to actually test your knowledge and fundamentals of how your approach is towards an algorithm, okay, towards a problem. So longest common subsequence is a very common problem in DP. Okay, so here basically you will be given with two strings, S1 and S2, and we have to find the longest common subsequence. So you might be knowing there are two things, substring and subsequence. Substrings will be consecutive string. So here, is there any consecutive common substring present between two strings? I don't think so. If you can take it one letter at a time, then yes, GG is present. G, only G, not GG. Then T is present. If it would have been like GG below also, then double G would have been the common substring. But there is no string, there are no two characters combined which are common. Okay, but if I'm talking about subsequence, the subsequence it may or it may not be consecutive. Okay, so here if you observe GT is common in both substrings, both the strings, but it is not consecutive. In upper if you'll see it's GGT, and below it is GXT. So in the first substring G is coming in between, and second substring X is coming in between. So here what is happening, it is common subsequence, it is not common substring. Okay, so GT can be one of the subsequence, AB can be one of the subsequence, then TB can be also one of the subsequence, TAB can be also one of the subsequence. Then what is the longest one? The longest one is GTAB, which is common across both the strings. So this we have to find it out. Okay, so basically what is the approach for this type of problems? So for this, we have to basically start recursion from the end, because it's simpler by going, because recursion is happening from the end, right? So we have to start it with the length, total length of the string. So it will start from length minus 1 because it's 0 based. So first it will compare the last characters b and b. It is matching. So once it's matched, we have found our subsequence. Okay, so we will be taking that. If I take it, then it will be 1 plus, because we have already taken it. And then we have to do the recursion for next set of length minus 1, because b is already considered. So now in the next set of iteration, we will not be considering b. So then length minus 2. Okay, because last character already been counted. So a and y is matching? No, a and y is not matching. So here the main logic comes. When the characters are not matching, then how will you approach b? Then your approach should be, first time we will be considering a and not consider y. Then second time, not consider a, consider y. I hope you understand. So these two ways we have to find out, like, is there any common subsequence available or not? And then we have to find the longest, that is maximum. Which one is maximum among them? We have to fetch that. So this is the logic basically we have to implement in case of longest common subsequence problem. So you can go through YouTube video, you will get a lot of videos on this as well. You will get the idea on the same. Okay. Next set of questions are totally based upon output based question. There were 2 questions and those 2 were good. It is not that difficult, but it will test your observation power basically. So let me test your observation power and let me check whether you are good observable person or not. Let me start with the first output based question. The first question was this. So main method is there, then there is int array counter. So 0 is passed in the array. Okay, then stream dot off. There is one method, like there is a immutable method of. Within that, there are certain set of strings passed, apple, banana, cherry. Then we are doing the filtering, dot filter, and then we are passing each string one by one, and then we are incrementing the counter at 0th location by 1 for each string being passed in a filter method. Okay, and then we are returning any string which is starting with a. At last, we are printing the counter value. So tell me, pause this video for 5 seconds or 10 seconds. Tell me what can be the output for this question. We have to find what is the counter value, counter at 0. What will be its value? Just pause this video and try to do it by yourself. So I hope you got the idea of it. So basically here you don't have to make use of much technical skills. You have to be much more observing. Okay, your observation power should be strong. So here if you observe, counter at 0 is 0, it's fine. It is going inside, doing the filtering. Apple starts with a, counter is first incrementing. Before checking, it is actually incrementing. So every time it will do the incrementation. So first time counter is 0, it will go to 1. Return s dot starts with a, yes, it will return true. Okay, because filter is having predicate functional interface, which is having test method. Okay, so once a condition is satisfied, it will return true. Then banana counter will increase by again 1. It will become 2. 0 plus 1, 1, then 1 plus 1, 2. Then s dot starts with a, no, it will return me false. Then cherry counter will again increase by 1. Counter will become at 0th location 3. Okay, then s dot starts with a, no, it will return me false. But what is happening in this? Will counter at 0 will return me 3 or not? This is the question. So it will not return me 3. Why? Because this is the property of streams. Like if we are starting with intermediate operation, it should end with terminal operation. Here there is no terminal operation, so it will not hold the state of the counter. So counter will initially internally it will hold as 3, but once this off method is implemented properly, all stream operation is done, then automatically counter will get reinitialized to 0. It will lose the previous identity of 3. So initially before that it was incremented from 0 to 3, but now after initializing and doing this, it has found out like there is no terminal operation and stream is lazily loaded, if you are knowing that. So if stream is lazily loaded, if there is no terminal operation, then it will lose its identity. Okay, so it will not store its calculated state. The final value of the counter will be staying as 0 only. So this will be the answer for this problem. I hope you got the clarity on this. Next question is this. So there is one list of string available, like arrays.asList A, B, and A. Then there is a map of character and string. Okay. Then what we are doing, we are doing the stream on the list. Then we are doing collectors.toMap. Basically, we are doing the mapping for each character. Okay. So it will take first character A. Then it will do map.entrySet after taking the map. And then we are doing the stream and then printing the things. So can you tell me what will be the output for this? Try to pause this video for 5 to 10 seconds and try to write it down. What may be the output for this problem? I hope you have write it down. How will you approach this problem? First, list is there. We are streaming on the list. We are collecting it. Then we are mapping it. So we are taking first character. Okay. So here, if you observe map of character and string. So first character, I got it as A. Okay. First character, I got it as A. And then we are doing map.entrySet and then we are printing it. Okay. So what is happening over here? We are mapping it. So first we are giving it as s.char 0. Okay. And then for that corresponding character, the string value is A only. Okay. So A will be mapped with A. Then B will be mapped with B. Then again A is coming. Then what will happen if again A is coming? Here it will throw exception, illegal state exception basically. Why? Because it's duplicate. Okay. So it's, don't consider it as a normal map where it will override the existing value if key is same. Here we have to write the merge function. Okay. So here if you observe both the keys are same. So in that scenario, it will not override the existing value of A. Here it will throw exception. So to resolve that, in the map method, in the toMap method, after s gives s.char 0, we have to write a merge function like s gives s. Like that, we have to add some merge function like what will happen if both characters are same. That logic also you have to write it in this. So after writing merge function, it will work properly. So if you are able to write it down by yourself or do it by yourself, do let me know. If you want the solution for this as well, do let me know in the comment box. I will give the solution for this. So next theory set of questions was started, like what is a garbage collector and what are the algorithms of garbage collector. So I will not go deep into it. So it's a theory based question, like garbage collector, what it does, it do garbage collect of the object, like whatever objects are not being referenced by any other object, so it will be garbage collected. There are various type of garbage collector, right? G1 GC, ZGC. Okay, then there are various algorithms like mark and sweep algorithm, concurrent mark and sweep algorithm. How does those algorithms works? You can go through them. Okay, then what if there is out of memory error in heap memory? So this was also problem. So we have to first, there are multiple ways to resolve this. First way is to analyze the thread dump or the logs. Basically you have to observe and check whether it can be solved with respect to increasing the heap size or not by doing -XMLS that we have to provide the spacing, like how much size you want. That way also is there, but you can't extend up to a maximum permissible limit. Okay, then after that you need to see, like from code perspective, is there any changes required or not? Have you made use of try with resources, so that any connections, if it is left open, it may cause issue. So whether it's properly closed, if any connections are opened. So those all things you have to check for all the resources, and there should not be multiple DB connections for the same flow. So there are multiple things you need to go through to analyze this and come to the conclusion. I've given you the hints. Okay. Then what's the difference between synchronized block and lock? Okay. So there are a lot of things you can search it out. So synchronized block is basically approach towards the method. So whenever you are doing synchronized over a block of code in a method, so that block of code will be thread safe, and only one thread will be allowed to interact with that particular block of code and access that. Until unless that thread releases the lock, no new thread can try to access that block of code. That is with respect to synchronized block. But the problem is, like, let's suppose you want to move it to a new method. Okay, let's suppose you are doing method call, multiple method calls, and you want to make that thread access that lock. Okay, have that lock to multiple methods as well. That will not be possible with synchronized block. So in that scenario, lock is preferable. Okay, and in some scenarios where main method is blocked for a lot of duration of time. Okay, for entire duration of time, main method is blocked. You can't block the main thread. So there is lock interruptibility method that you can call. So basically it will wait for certain time duration. After that, if it doesn't return any data, it will automatically return and it will give chance to another thread which is waiting for longer duration of time. Okay, so this way lock is much more preferable. So again, it depends upon the requirement. Like if the requirement is like it needs to be much more flexible, and then lock is much more preferred in real time scenarios. Okay, then there's ticket booking system. Like if only one seat is available and there are multiple people trying to access that seat and book the seat, then how will you approach those kind of scenarios? So here also lock is preferable. Okay, because in lock it will basically take one user at a time. Okay, and then it will have a set of seats, how many seats are available. So if that seat is already being blocked by another thread, then it will not allow other threads to interact with that particular block of code for that for some specific duration of time. If that duration of time got exceeded, then it will be a session timeout for that person, and then it will give chance to another person who are waiting in the queue. So what is future in multi-threading? You might be knowing. So future is basically to hold the state of the object if it tries to come in future, sometime in future, not currently, not suddenly, but sometime in future. So basically, it is used with concurrent transactions, where in multi-threaded environment, where there are multiple threads and there are like millions of records which will be getting access from database. So in that scenarios, future is much more preferable to use, because it will not block the main thread for continued duration of time. And then what will happen? It will actually wait and it will asynchronously compute the entire set of jobs or entire set of business logic that is being written beforehand. Okay. So they may ask you then why completable future came into picture. So there are various set of differences you can go through. Like futures, in future we can't do any chaining of multiple futures together. In completable future we can do that. There are various inbuilt methods in completable future. We can do like compose or async, dot then supply async. There are multiple internal methods you can call, but that is not possible with the help of future. Okay, in future you can return the data, but main method or main thread can be blocked for infinite period of time if the certain method which is being called is not returning any response. But in completable future, after a certain set of duration of time, we can set like after how much time it should return a dummy response. So that is possible with completable future. And there are other examples as well. You can go through them. What is min pool, max pool, and queue size in multi-threading? So if you have observed, like there is fork joint thread pool that is by default utilizes the cores of your CPU. Like same concept is used in parallel stream as well. Fork joint thread pool and parallel stream both uses the same concept with respect to your core thread pool size. Like what's the size of your actual thread pool? So we have to set it in a properties or YAML file. Like what's the minimum pool size below which you should not go, irrespective of how much data we need to transfer parallelly or concurrently. And max pool means maximum how much data you need to put it in a set of pool of threads. Okay. And queue size, how much queue size it needs to be maintained. Okay, so let's suppose we can't take any data to set like this many threads only we want. Okay, it depends upon the core of your CPU. So if there are like millions of records, we have to divide it in multiple batches, like 10,000, 10,000, 10,000, like that. There are hundreds of batches, and we have only 4 threads that a computer can have. Okay, so what will happen if all 4 threads are in busy state? Then what will happen? All other tasks will be in queue. Okay, so queue size is being set up, like how much data you want to be in queue before execution of the entire set of data. Okay, so once the queue size is full, it will not allow any other data to get involved in it. So internally it is making use of blocking queue. Okay, so there are various kind of blocking queue, like link blocking queue, array blocking queue. Okay, but blocking queue is mostly used to check that users are not putting data into queue when queue is full, or user is not trying to fetch data from queue when queue is empty. It will not allow to fetch the data. So those things are being taken care of by blocking queue. So that's why blocking queue is being used. So these all things are there. You can go ahead and have a look onto it. And if you want me to create a dedicated short video on this, I will create the same for you. Just to comment it down below. Then what are the bean life cycles? So there are various life cycle on bean. Like it's a commonly asked question you can go through. Like there is init method. Then after that there is constructor injection, auto wiring. There is like Spring container will create a dependency injection for you. Okay. and then after constructor injection is there, then you can do post construct, like after construction of bean, what you want from Spring container to do. So that logic you can implement in post construct bean method. Then if you want to do your own configuration, then you can add added configuration class, then you can have added bean over the methods, and then there is pre-destroy method. So once entire set of work is done, then that bean will be automatically destroyed. Okay, so these are the bean life cycle. So this is also one of the important question for interview. Like if we don't want to have some of the beans to get auto injected at server startup, then what needs to be done? So there is some annotation like conditional on property annotation. So in that conditional on property annotation, there you can pass basically the bean name. Okay, so whatever configuration you have done in the application or properties file, you can add it over here. You can specify which bean name, then having enabled is true or false. Then match if missing. If match if missing is false, so it will not, if it is not matching, it will not create the bean for you. Okay, then if having enabled is false in the properties file, then it will not allow you to inject the bean at server startup. Okay, so these are the things that you can explore, and there are various aspects like added lazy annotation also you can use. Then with added profile also you can make use of. Added profile you can provide like what kind of, like we want it from UAT environment, this logic should be executed to only, this configuration should be loaded only during UAT environment. So those all configuration you can provide with added profile. So there are three ways basically to implement this. One is added conditional on property annotation. Second is via added profile annotation. And then third is via added lazy annotation. So these are the aspects we can explore. What is dirty read problem? This is also very important with respect to isolation levels in Spring Boot. Okay, so dirty read problem is like if one thread is trying to acquire the resource and do some modification, like do some write operation, then actually it has not committed, but at the same time another thread is trying to access that particular resource and trying to read the data. Okay, so let's suppose first thread has done some write and then another thread has read it. Okay, so that point of time it has given proper data, but when thread 1 has again done some modification in that value, like a value is initially 5, thread 2 has read the data of a, which is 5, then after that a value is changed from 5 to 7 and then committed. But if second thread will try to fetch the data, then it will give some different value. Okay, so these are the problems, like it will give dirty read problems. So like thread will get confused, like which data is right, 5 is right or 7 is right. Okay, so that it will create a dirty read problem. So the questions again come on what are the types of isolation levels in Spring Boot application. There are various kind of isolation levels in Spring Boot. You can go through them. Okay, you can pause the video and you can go through all of them. What happens in read committed stage? Okay, so this is also written in here. You can go through in read committed state. This level, it prevents the dirty read by ensuring the transaction can only read data which has been committed by other transaction. But it may allow non-repeatable read and phantom read. You can go through this. Okay, so because these kind of questions is commonly asking in isolation levels of Spring Boot. What is cyclic dependency and injection? So like cyclic dependency injection. So if bean A is injecting bean B, like class B, and class B is injecting class A dependency. So in that scenario, it will do the cyclic dependency. Okay, like A is dependent on B, but B is also dependent on A. So Spring container will not be able to identify like which bean will need to be injected in which class first. So in that scenario, it will get confused and it will give cyclic dependency issue at runtime. So to resolve that, we can make use of lazy annotation. Like whichever bean you want to inject lazily at runtime, you can mark it as lazy. Okay, so other one will load it eagerly, and the second bean will load lazily as and when it is called. I hope you got the clarity on cyclic dependency. What is hate OS? Okay, this is one of the component. So it's with respect to hypermedia accessibility. Okay, so in this case, basically the client will get the URL. Okay, so endpoint URL they will get, and they can click it and they can see like what is the actual response of the request that is being passed. Okay, so there's one full form of HATO. It's hypermedia as the engine of the application state. Clients should be able to navigate the REST API entirely through links provided dynamically in the response. for server responses without actually hard coding the endpoint parts. So this is basically gateways. So you can explore what all gateways is there internally. Okay, and this is important for interview, so you can go through that. So yeah, so they may tell you what's the difference between choreography and orchestration design pattern in microservices. So this is a very deep topic. Okay, I will create some separate video on this and some other day. But yeah, this is very important for interview. What is server side layer, network layer? So this is basically with respect to OSI layers. There are various OSI layers, right? Like network layer, application layer, protocol layer. So with respect to server side layer, network layer, what all layers are there and what is happening internally? So you can explore that before going for interview. Those OSI layers are very important. Okay, so you can go through that before coming to this EPAM interview. How to enable caching in Spring Boot application? So first of all, we need to add @enable caching in main class, Spring Boot application class. Then we need to add cacheable annotation depending upon what you are trying to do. If you are trying to cache a get operation, then you can have get cacheable. If you want to cache the delete operations, like whenever delete operation is happening in database, the cache also needs to get updated. Okay, with database. Then we have to make use of @cache evict. Then there is cache cache put, which you can have when we want to do some create or save operation in database, and you want your cache to be updated or in sync with whatever changes are being done in database. Okay, so yeah, this is basically caching, and there are various strategies to implement caching. Like this was our next question: what are the different strategies of cache implementation? So there are two things: read through cache and write through cache. So read through cache is basically checking like whatever data is present or not in cache. If it is not present, it will hit database and then it will interact and get the data. So if it is already present in the cache, then it will fetch the data directly from cache. Okay, so this is a thing you can explore, read through and write through cache. You will get the idea on it. What is Richardson maturity model? So this is also very important for interview. So this was asked to me long time back, 1 year back. Before that, it was not asked much in interviews, but now I have seen like 1 to 2 interviews these questions are being asked. So go through all their 4 levels of maturity model. Okay, like level 0, level 1, level 2. At first point there were only URIs. Okay, but there were no direct interaction. We are not making use of it properly. Then we are making use of all the endpoints like get mapping, post mapping. Then at third level, we are making use of HateOS. Okay, so these are the things you can explore all this Richardson maturity model. Okay, in depth, and I've also created specific video on Richardson maturity model. You can go through my Nagarro interview experience, round 1 or round 2. I'm not remembering. So in one of them, I have explained Richardson maturity model. Okay, you can go through them as well. So how deployment happens in your project? So this will be the next question, like how is the deployment happening? So if you're making use of Jenkins, you can tell like as soon as you raise PR, after PR is merged, okay, then it will trigger a pipeline build, and after build is happening, then it will do the deployment across various environments like dev environment, SIT, UAT. It depends from project to project. So what is actually happening? Like, have you written any script, pipeline script? Like basically DevOps team is responsible for writing scripts, but if you have written or have seen, you are having knowledge, you can tell about that as well. Okay, or else you can simply tell like there was a separate DevOps team who was handling this pipeline things. And if there's anything linked with your project, then you can tell like we have implemented some IMPL file with respect to Jenkins, and there the pipeline strategies were written. So it totally depends from project to project how it is implemented, and you can tell it's particular with respect to project. It will differ from person to person. Okay, so this was also asked. I was also not aware of this, like SNYK plugin. So what is SNYK? It's a sync plugin in Jenkins. So it's a native plugin for Jenkins which enables the integration of sync security scanning capabilities into your CI/CD pipeline. Okay, so it will basically check the vulnerabilities. Okay, it will check and scan across your pipeline that whether is there any vulnerability issues or not. If there is any vulnerability issue, it will catch that, okay, in open source dependency, and it will dockerize that, and then it will check it out like as part of your Jenkins build, like what all vulnerability issues are there. So there is like sonar report, and then there is like check marks report. If you have worked on any project, you will get the idea like what I am talking about. So they generate check marks report. In that you will get to see what all vulnerabilities are there in your project, and then you have to resolve them. So that is happening with respect to SNYK security scanning mechanism. So this is also very important plugin. So just go through that once. And how to trace logs in microservice. So you can trace logs by various ways. Like if microservices are small, like one or two or three microservices are there, then you can do by enabling logging mechanism, like SLF 4J logging mechanism you can do. But if they are like the more than 6-7 microservices are there, then it will become very difficult to identify like from which microservice actually the issue is coming. So in that scenario, we have to make use of Jepkins. Okay, and then there is certain IDs we have to make sure, like what are trace ID, what are span ID, because like if one microservice A is calling B microservice calling C microservice calling D, multiple microservice calls are happening, and if some error is being thrown, how will you identify from which microservice this error is being thrown? This becomes problem, right? So to resolve this issue, basically we have to implement this Jepkins mechanism. So Jepkins and Sleuth is a tool with the help of which we can trace the logs and we can identify from where exactly the issue is coming from. Okay, so there will be one trace ID. Corresponding to one trace ID, there will be multiple span IDs, and through that span IDs, we can get to know like exactly from which microservice your issue is coming from. Like that, you can trace your logs. I hope you got the clarity on this. Then the question was on Mockito framework, like what is strictness? So there is lenient, strictness. Okay, you can provide what kind of strictness, like a strong strictness or lazy, like lenient strictness. Those are things you can provide in Mockito. If it is strictness is lenient, then if that particular object is not being mocked properly or it is not returning me any data, so still it will not give any type of exception. It will not throw any kind of exception. That is happening with the help of lenient. So you can go through that. What's the meaning of lenient strictness? Okay. What is reflection API? This question is also very common. Okay. So reflection API is a powerful feature with the help of which it enables a program to actually inspect and manipulates its own structure and behavior at a runtime. So at runtime, it will check like what is the actual behavior of the program, and by doing the introspection. Okay. And then it will interact with the classes, fields, variables, and then it will try to manage that fields and methods dynamically. So it all happens at runtime. Okay, so this is very much important. And you can break private constructors via reflection. Okay, so how you can break that? So this was the next question. How can you break the private constructor via reflection? Okay, so you can, there is one class. Okay, like constructors class is there. From there reference, you can add like constructor.set accessible. You can put it as true. Once you set constructor accessibility as true, then it becomes easy for any other outsiders to break the constructor. Okay, if you are not setting accessibility as true, then nobody can break that constructor. So this is also very important. Then question was on Kafka internal architecture. You can go through the internal architecture, how Kafka works, like brokers, then topics, then within topics, how many partitions are there, how data is stored within partition, then what is a offset ID, which is unique for each partition. Okay, how data is being passed through Kafka, how data is being taken from Kafka, what is push-pull mechanism. So those are internal architecture. You can go through the videos, you can get to know. Okay, what is message queue transfer protocol? So this is one of the protocol which Kafka follows for transferring messages from broker to topic, then from topic to consumers. How consumer fetch the data? There is one protocol that is being followed, like a certain set of rules that are being followed. So how does it work? So you can go through that. Then the question was on what is pull and push based messaging in Kafka. So there is something called as pull based consumption, and then there is push based. So pull based is for consumer, because once the data is stored within the topics in Kafka, then consumer have to pull the data. Consumers will not get the data automatically from Kafka, or Kafka will not send the data automatically to the consumers. Rather, consumer will have to pull the data from the Kafka. So that's why it is called pull-based consumption. Okay, and then there's push-based, like producer will push the data to Kafka. So that's why it's a push-based. Okay, so that is basically pull and push-based. So there's like multiple internal things, questions can be asked, like what is back pressure handling? So next question was that only, what is back pressure and flow control in Kafka? So I was also not aware that time much. So this is first time I have heard this type of question. So I thought to share it with you guys. So back pressure, you can see like this kind of topics, it is kind of points they can ask you. Consumer driven. What is consumer driven in pull based consumption? in Kafka. What is back pressure handling? It actually prevents consumer from being overwhelmed by a high message production rate. If there's like very high message production rate, so it will prevent consumers to be overwhelmed with so much data. So as they can pull message only when they are ready to process them. If consumers are not ready to process them, then it's optional for consumers to fetch the data. So it will become very easy. Otherwise, if there's like huge loads of data being transferred to Kafka, then consumer will get overwhelmed and consumer will not be able to process the data properly. So that is back pressure handling. Okay. Then there's flow control, how data is being flown properly from producer to Kafka, so that it will control the flow. Like it should not allow more than a certain threshold of data to Kafka. Okay, so this back pressure handling is from consumption side or consumer side, and flow control is from the producer side. Then there's flexible processing, efficient batching, long polling. These all things you can go through. And in push based also there is broker driven push based. Then asynchronous push based. Then load balancing in push based. So these terms you should be aware of. Okay, you can go through them. You can pause the video. You can go through the terms, and then it will be very easy for you to understand the questions in the interviews. So this I've already explained. Then what is optimistic and pessimistic locking? So this is there with respect to multi-threading environment. Okay, so pessimistic locking, basically it will lock the particular resource until and unless the work is over. It will not allow any other thread to act on it until that particular thread has released the lock. So pessimistic lock works in a scenario where it is very much pessimistic, like there will be some issue, other thread will create any kind of problem if I allow this task to be handled, or some other thread is reading it. So that particular thread is very much pessimistic. So what it will do, you can understand, like a person is there who is in a library, who is reading a book. Until and unless that person has completed reading a book, that particular book, he will not share with any other person. That is pessimistic locking. Optimistic locking means that particular locking is very much optimistic. Like if any other thread is trying to acquire and trying to read or do some modification, so it will not harm anything. It will not create any harm. It will not block any flow control. So that is very much optimistic with respect to threads. So optimistic locking assumes that conflicts are very much rare. Okay, so it will allow multiple users to access data simultaneously. And at a runtime, and dynamically, it will check at the commit time. So if there is any conflicts or not. If there is any conflict at runtime, it will check via version field. If there is any commit at runtime, then if a conflict is detected, then an exception will occur. So this will happen dynamically at a commit time. Okay, so this is the difference between optimistic and pessimistic locking. Okay, so pessimistic locking means a person will not share his or her book with anybody until unless he reads that book. And optimistic locking is he is reading the book, he or she is reading the book. During that time, he can share that book with other person to read as well. So it is the simplest way to explain. Okay. Cap theorem. Cap theorem is also very important. It's a distributed system, okay, where it cannot simultaneously provide all the three, like consistency, availability, and partition tolerance. It will allow either of the two. It can't allow all the three. Okay, you can go through them, like what actually cap theorem does. Then database partitioning. So you can do the partitioning of your database across multiple tables. Why it happens? Let's suppose there are millions of records in database. Okay, and you want to fetch first or like 10,000 records after a particular row, then it becomes very difficult, right, to access so many data. So in that scenario, partitioning is very much important. But which partitioning? There are two kinds of partitioning: horizontal partitioning and vertical partitioning. So horizontal partitioning means dividing the table into multiple 2 or 3 tables, dividing it in batches. Like if there are 10,000 records, then 5,000 in one table, 5,000 in another table. In that way, fetching will become very much easy. Okay, and vertical partitioning is there, like in a same table, you can create multiple columns so that it will uniquely identify that particular record or that particular user. Okay, so you can go ahead and try to explore more on it, like what is database partitioning and what are the horizontal and vertical partitioning. Okay, N+1 query problem is very common in Hibernate. Like whenever there is like customer, okay, customer is having certain set of products. So if we want to get certain set of products, then it will run queries for getting the products, and along with product query, it will also run the query for getting the customer as well, like which customer has brought these products. Okay, so that is basically n+1 query problems. What is auto configuration? Auto configuration is there in Spring Boot, right? It will automatically configure all the dependencies in class path, and you don't have to worry about what all configuration jars we have to attach in your dependency path. Okay, so it will automatically get configured via Spring Boot. Okay, yeah, so these was the set of technical questions that were being asked. Then at last, there were a few questions with respect to agile methodology. So there were two type of methodology, like waterfall and agile. So first they will ask like which methodology is followed in your project. So if you tell agile methodology, then they will ask like what is planning session. So in this planning session, basically they will do some team meeting, and then they will discuss about what all set of requirements being gathered and how what methods or what methodologies will be followed to implement all of them by different developers. This is a planning session. Then there's a refinement session. Okay, so in refinement session, it will do the story refinement. So it will check basically like who all developers are being assigned with what all kind of stories, and are they capable of doing those kind of stories or not, which developers are able to properly deliberately implement that stories within the stipulated time. Okay, and what are the is the requirements clear so that they can start, if is the acceptance criteria being properly given. So these kind of things are being discussed in the refinement session. What is ready for development and done state of the story? So if you see in the stories, there are multiple states like in progress, ready for development, ready for testing. Okay, then there is one more thing is there, like done state is there, like committed stage is there, then like in review state is also there. So basically your PR will be reviewed first. Okay, once the review is successful and merged, then it will go to ready for testing. So there are various things are there. So these questions are there. If you have worked on Jira's, you will get the idea like what all these questions. Okay, and what are the prerequisites before starting the stories? So most an important thing is acceptance criteria. The acceptance criteria should be very much clear. Like what is the acceptance criteria with respect to your stories? Like what actually needs to be implemented? Like is that particular test functionality is written end to end? Is there proper mocking framework implemented or Cucumber test cases written? Is it tested end to end? So there are some acceptance criteria, like the response time should be below certain threshold of 2 millisecond or 3 millisecond. So these are some of the acceptance criteria that should be cleared off. Second, the stories, story pointers should be properly written, like how much pointers should be given to which all stories. Okay, like if it is a short story, it should not be more than 2 pointers. If it's a big story, it needs to be divided into 2 chunks so that it is tracked easily, like which stories are being completed sooner. So these all things, and due date should be given for each stories, like after how much time that story is tend to be completed by the developer. So these all things, and description should be very much clear, and developers should be fully aware of the requirements that is being assigned to that person. Okay, so that in the middle of the sprint, he should not be confused, like how should I proceed ahead with it. Okay, so these are certain prerequisites actually which is required before starting the sprint. So this was it. I hope you got a clarity on this. Like there is a lot of things to learn, and EPAM this round basically has told me like there are lots of things more to learn, like specifically back pressure, this flow control. These are things I was not aware of much, so I have learned a lot. So yeah, so keep giving interviews, because once you keep giving interviews, then only you will get where you are lacking, which all things you should be well aware of in for next interviews, and then it will help you mentally be prepared as well. Okay, yeah, so we will see you in next set of videos with respect to interview experience and other set of important topics in Java and Spring Boot or microservice. Till then, be happy, be healthy, be wise. We'll see you in the next video. Till then, it's Devjit Roy signing off. Bye-bye. Hi everybody. I provide consultation calls or one-on-one session calls or one-on-one mock interview sessions for all of you, so that you can ace ahead in your IT interviews, okay, and crack the big service based and or big product based organization. So how can you do that? So I am taking mock interview sessions, so you can go ahead in the description box below and you can book a call with me and we'll be having a one-on-one conversation. If you want to clear your doubts, that also we can have 1 hour consultation call, or if you want to book for resume session, that also you can book. If you want to have a mock interview session, that also you can book. So those all kind of consultation I provide, and we are also having all the resources that has helped me to crack the Java interview. That has also I have attached in the description box below. If you want to go through all the interview series, then there is a 34 interview series playlist videos that I have attached in this comment box in the description box below. So go ahead and watch that as well. So it will help you boost your interview skills and you can clear your interview like ease. Okay, so see you inside.